Hello and welcome to the Haaretz Podcast. I'm Allison Kaplan-Summer in Tel Aviv. It's a wartime Passover in Israel, and honestly, it's hard to remember the last time we had anything resembling a normal Passover celebration. From the COVID-19 epidemic to October 7th to this current Iran war, it feels like every preparation for the Festival of Freedom is almost as challenging as the exodus from Egypt itself. So here with me in the studio is the ideal guest to discuss the challenges of preparing for Passover 2026, both in Israel and around the Jewish world. Adeena Sussman. Adeena Sussman has been writing about Israeli food culture for many years. First, she was here as a visitor, and now as a Tel Aviv resident of a decade, where she lives, breathes, and eats the rhythms of the fresh produce, artisan products, and farm-to-table restaurants in the Carmel market. She shares her wanderings in the shuk with her hungry followers on social media. Her third cookbook, called Zariz, will be published on April 28th. It follows on the heels of her best-selling first two cookbooks, Sababa and Shabbat. Adeena is also the co-author of 15 cookbooks, collaborating with a number of celebrities who also love the kitchen. Our conversation is coming up.
I'm Esther Solomon, Editor-in-Chief of Haaretz English. Around the world, the fight is on to preserve critical and independent media. Haaretz, Israel's oldest newspaper, upholds its long tradition of accurate, committed, and incisive journalism, refusing to bend its reporting to pressure from any government or leader. A digital subscription to Haaretz gives you up-to-the-minute news and analysis in English from journalists who live Israel's reality and are committed to covering the Middle East and its global repercussions.
Adeena Sussman, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
As I've said many times, I can't remember the last time we had what we recall as a normal Passover, where we spend the month before focusing solely on who we're having, what we're serving. Do you remember if we had one somewhere between COVID and October 7th?
What is normal anyway? Everything is acceptable. I just remember that on my husband's 60th birthday, we were supposed to have a 35-person Seder on April 8th, and instead it was just me and him and a meatloaf, which is what he requested. And that became the new normal.
So where do we begin? Many people, I think, plan to have a big family Seder in Israel, and now because of traveling, because of warnings, because of how many people you can fit in your bomb shelter, it's all very, changey and adjustable. I'm sure many people are coming to you with their problems and dilemmas, what to do, how to do it. Do you have any particular advice or recommendations? How are you coping with all of the changes while trying to plan for a holiday that really needs to be planned for?
First of all, I would say that whatever you can do is the right thing. I talked about this a lot when the Shabbat cookbook came out, that whatever you have the time, emotional, physical energy for, budget, resources, that's the perfect Shabbat meal. There are no proscribed ideas about what a meal has to be and what a delicious meal has to be. So I know a lot of people who haven't even started thinking about their Passover Seder yet. So I would say keep it simple. I would say focus on something that you love to make, or if you want to escape, find a project recipe and, delve deep into that. Less people can actually be a little bit overwhelming for Passover. We're used to cooking in large formats. So just if you're having a smaller crowd, think of it as an enhanced family dinner.
Yeah, I think that also applies. We're talking about wartime here in Israel, but I think anyone going through any kind of a crisis, health problems, any kind of issues that sort of land on you in the middle of Passover preparations, you need to take it into account when you're deciding what to serve.
And I think that goes the same for cleaning for Passover, for all of the general preparations. A lot of the things that we take on are maybe a little extra. And this year, let's focus on, what we need to do and what is meaningful and what will keep us sane and keeping it moving.
Given that, for some people, it is comforting to plunge themselves into, creating an elaborate meal or something special. On your Instagram page, no pun intended, you get a real taste of your work making, for example, coconut macaroon ice cream sandwiches.
That can of macaroons never saw this Passover dessert coming, guys. These ice cream sandwiches use those soft, delicious coconut macaroons, which you smash into discs to create the bottom and the top of a lovely ice cream sandwich. You use a cookie cutter to sort of keep everything into a beautiful round shape. It looks super profesh. And then, of course, there is a little freeze, a dip in some chocolate, and a sprinkling of flaky sea salt. This is peak dessert for very little effort. The hardest thing you're going to have to do is some therapeutic macaroon smashing and freezing time in the freezer. Love Passover desserts. How about you? First of all, I love Passover cooking, and the Jewish holidays are my Super Bowls. I don't post on Instagram for metrics, but my highest viewing times are usually the high holidays, Hanukkah and Passover. And I like to do things that are either traditional or something with a twist. Like there's always going to be a brisket recipe, and there are always going to be things like the macaroon ice cream sandwiches or Cheez-Its for Passover, which I posted a couple of years ago that went viral, or a cinnamon toast crunch cereal that People magazine picked up and wrote about. I love to put a mixture of my American upbringing with my Israeli existence and kind of put that all together on my social media and in my cookbooks.
And also taking Passover standards that we might be a little tired of, for example, turning matzah into cinnamon toast crunch cereal, or those darn macaroons, which we definitely get tired of as desserts, making them into ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah, you got to have a good time with the holiday cooking. And also, yes, these packaged standards. First of all, you could definitely make your own macaroons if you want, but I'm not sure that this is the year for that, at least for me. And, I wanted to do something fun, tasty, and something that maybe you could do with your kids as well. A lot of people wrote me that they're going to make those ice cream sandwiches with their children. And that made me really happy. Ruchama wrote from Boston, from Ruchama's Food, that she was going to make them with her kids. And that was the ultimate compliment to me.
Have you had any dishes ruined by bomb alerts? I've had some people complain, and somebody that I said I was having you on the podcast said, what do you do when you're in the middle of cooking and then you get an alert?
Last night I was broiling the cheese topping on a French onion soup just as a warning went off, and I just shut off the oven and ran downstairs. I came back and it was actually perfectly melted and crisp, but safety first. So the kind of recipes that I make are pretty straightforward and simple, and we're not making soufflés most of the time, so chances are it's going to be okay.
And do you plunge yourself into cooking as a way to keep your mind off the war? Does it make you not want to cook at all? I mean, I don't know if you ever don't want to cook at all.
I've been cooking constantly. First of all, I like to keep busy. We're running what we like to call our war B&B. We have a friend living with us and my husband's son, my stepson Nadav. So I like to have dinner for people or food around. And also I'm still creating recipes for social media and also working on future projects already. So there's a lot of cooking going on. There is not a lot of room in my refrigerator right now.
Do you snack in the bomb shelter? Are there special bomb shelter snacks?
Our bomb shelter basket, there was a reporter this morning at my house and we kept having to run down. She was Israeli. And by the time we were finished with our third visit to our safe room, she was eating Chex Mix. So it's a real mix of Israeli and American snacks. And I think it's a real kind of analog to my culinary personality.
Some people are complaining about COVID-style weight gain during this time because you're staying around home. You're not wanting to, get out on your exercise and your walk too much. And
it's true.
Comfort food is comforting.
I'm trying to take walks down to the beach, which is near our home. But yeah, you don't want to get too far away. Last week I was out on a walk with my stepson and we ended up in the basement of the Kempinski Hotel, sitting around with other people. Not like it was, we feel fortunate that we have safe places to go, but it is unsettling. I wouldn't say that I'm terrified, but it's definitely a life changer.
Adeena, your brand is the Carmel Market in Tel Aviv. I've had a lot of guests on the podcast and tried to express to the overseas audience what it's like to be in Israel during this time. Everyone has their own individual experiences at their home, at their office, among their friends. But I think maybe you can give us the Carmel market meter because you've been close up during the tough times of the Gaza war, before that COVID-19. What do you find the market to be like during wartime, during this particular time in Iran? Tell us what the atmosphere is like and how it changes. It's usually such a bustling, alive place. Does it try to preserve that spirit? Is everything shut down? What does it feel like?
So everything is not shut down. A lot of things are. I would say the shuk is divided into sort of two sections, the top of the shuk and the bottom of the shuk. The bottom of the shuk near where I live is the more culinary portion of the shuk where most of the produce is sold and a lot of the restaurants are. And the top is more where you can buy clothing and fake designer bags and Judaica. And the top is essentially closed because it's really not worthwhile for them to open. A lot of the restaurants are reopened. It has not retained its bustling spirit. It's very quiet, even on a Thursday or a Friday when you typically cannot move in the shuk. I think the shuk is a reflection of what is going on in greater Israel at any time. Of course, I'm in there. I like to say I like to touch the shuk every day. And now I'd say it's multiple times a day. I'm by all my food there, all my produce, all my meat, my fish, everything like that. And of course, I go to my favorite coffee place. I call it my Cheers, Cafe Tomati, where everybody knows my name and gives me a real sense of comfort to go check in there every morning and have a schmooze and a gossip with Mickey, the owner. The shuk never shut down. The day after the war started, we had friends who were stuck here, and they ended up moving in with us for the first few days. And I snuck out in the morning and went to my, I found produce to buy, I found things to buy, and I was able to cook from day one. And the same was true in COVID. Everyone thought the shuk was completely closed, but those in the know knew where to go, and I luckily know where to go.
What did the shopkeepers tell you, or what did the customers tell you about deciding to open, deciding to come?
The shuk is a real destination within Israel for people to come to eat out and to shop, and people are not really leaving their hometowns right now. They're staying close to home. So on a Thursday or Friday, thousands and thousands of people will stream in, park, do their shopping, and then have like a boisterous alcohol-soaked lunch or something delicious to eat before they go home. So, it's easy to find parking right now. It's very quiet. I've been in Israel for 10 years. Most of these people have lived here for generations, and they're very hardy and resilient, and they're not big complainers. So I would say that they're living their reality and just trying to get through every day. But it's sad. It's hard to see the produce vendors not being able to get through their stuff. And, it's a challenging time for sure. But I would say people are still there. If you live in Israel, go to the shuk and support the shuk.
Even more, I would imagine, for the restaurateurs.
The Carmel 40, which is an amazing fish sandwich in the shuk. I have a version of it in my new book, Zariz. You can barely get within 10 meters of that place on the average lunchtime. And now's the time to go and have the things that you can't access. And also I want to say that the amazing thing about Israel is that, new things are opening. A new taqueria opened yesterday in the Carmel Market by the founders of a restaurant called Beber, which is right near my coffee shop. And it was busy, and I saw bloggers and influencers there filming and posting from there. So people in Tel Aviv really know how to keep it moving. And when food's involved, you can't stand in people's way.
And when people can't take their trips abroad or can't take their big vacations
Yeah.
or wander around the Galilee and
Exactly.
visit wineries, that's something that's close by, that's achievable.
Absolutely. And that's also true of home cooking. I think, home cooking can be a departure. It can be a little bit of an escape. It can be a way, if you're reading a cookbook, it's a way to escape into someone else's world or someone else's culinary lexicon and eat their food. And, so it's been almost a month, and we have not eaten out once, except for, we grab things here and there, street food and takeaway, and we've ordered in a bit, but mostly I'm just cooking at home. And that is very unusual as someone who really loves the Tel Aviv restaurant scene, and it's part of my work and it's part of my I view a night out at a restaurant as a night of theater. So I haven't had any theatrical experiences in a month, and I miss them a lot.
Do you have one favorite wartime recipe you feel like you're going to again and again? I want to ask you that. And I also want to ask you what's the mainstay of this year's Passover for you? Where are you going in terms of directions for Passover?
Weirdly, I've been leaning into sort of like my American classics a little bit, the comfort foods. I've been making a lot of Italian marinara sauce and bolognese and things that I can use in different ways, and pasta sauces and lasagnas and meatballs and things like that. I'm trying to make foods that can hang around for a while when my husband or my stepson or a guest needs a bite to eat.
And eating a lot of pasta before Passover.
Of course. And I've been eating a lot of dips. We also always have, cold brew in the house, and we're going through our caffeinated cold brew like water at this point. So we can't make it fast enough after sleepless or sleepy nights, getting up multiple times like you really need that jolt of caffeine in the morning. So my cinnamon and cardamom cold brew is definitely a standard in the house. And my homemade almond milk. Yesterday I made a smoothie in the morning that had a double shot of espresso in it, called a red eye smoothie with tahina and medjool dates and a little bit of chocolate syrup and a frozen banana and almond milk. And, it definitely gave me a little bit of the jolt that I needed in the morning.
Sounds good to me. And then you have the point where you switch from coffee to cocktails because you need the alcohol to get through your evening of alarms.
And it's citrus season. So yeah, I juice a lot of blood oranges, grapefruits, pink grapefruits, tangerines, lemons, limes. I keep it in a big pitcher. And then for those who aren't indulging in alcohol, they can just have a nice glass of citrus juice. And we also have a steady supply because friends of ours have a little orange orchard and they've been popping by with some bumper crops. But yes, there's a lot of tequila and gin being mixed in as well.
What do you recommend for Passover for someone who wants to make something special that's easy?
Part of it is I think even if there's something that you tend to make, like simplify it. Brisket, for instance, which is a real, Americans love their brisket on holidays. And Israelis are starting to know brisket more than they used to. 10 years ago, brisket was not something, but now you can get it. I think also because of the popularity of American barbecue, Texas, it's the same cut of meat, the same brisket. But, in the past, if you spent all that time searing the brisket and browning it in a huge pot, maybe just throw it under the broiler this year to give it a little bit of that sear and then put the sauce on it. Don't reduce the sauce. I have a recipe. I created a little bonus Passover cookbook for people who pre-order Zariz that they can download for free just as a thank you. And my brisket recipe has 50 cloves of garlic in it that sort of confit themselves in the sauce. After 5-6 hours, you just open the brisket and mash the garlic into the liquid and the braising liquid and it sort of self-sauces. So the idea is maybe a streamlined, pared down version of something that you already make. Of course, you can never go wrong with a big pot of chicken soup. This year, maybe instead of gefilte fish, if you're making gefilte fish, maybe you could make I have a beautiful piece of salmon with pink horseradish, dill, and honey that you can serve as a first course, much easier than making gefilte fish.
And it's a Passover food because it's got horseradish in it.
Exactly.
So as you mentioned, and as we're all paying attention to, we fans of your cooking and your cookbooks, your new cookbook Zariz is coming out. Zariz in Hebrew means quick.
It does.
The subtitle is Easy Breezy Tel Avivi Recipes, which is funny because Tel Aviv isn't feeling very easy and breezy these days. It's
not. I mean, it's a take on, if you're of the same generation as me, there was an old advertisement, Easy Breezy Cover Girl. It was sort of this, you think about this nonchalant lifestyle, and Tel Aviv does have a lot of that. And I try to convey that ease in the cooking. And I'm calling this book, Simple Cooking for Complicated Times. And it was sort of the book, my last book came out a month before October 7th, and I was on active book tour during the beginning of the war. And I realized that the next book I needed to write was one that didn't tax my body or my mind too much, but didn't sacrifice the sensory pleasures of cooking, the sizzling, the stirring, the aromas, and all that stuff, just with less work. I call it sort of the Coco Chanel way of cooking. She always said, you get dressed and then remove 2 accessories. And sort of that's kind of how I viewed these recipes. I made them and made them and made them. And then I tried to take away anything that wasn't essential, either in technique or in ingredients, so that everything had maximum impact with less work.
So this is the second book in a row that you're releasing, and a war starts. I don't want to suggest that you stop writing books, but And
Sababa came out a few months before COVID. So yeah, we're hoping for a paradigm shift here.
It's also, obviously, with our travel issues, it's not a great time for you to have to go on your big book tour, but you have one coming up in the U.S.
I'm going. I have 30 stops already planned over 6 weeks, and I love book tour. I love connecting with my audiences and my community in the United States who've really stuck by me and grown with me over the last 6. I've written 6 books in 3 years. I can't even believe it. If I have to take a dinghy over to the next flyable destination, I'll do that. But yeah, I'm going to make it over there. My book comes out April 28th. Doing a launch event with Gail Simmons of Top Chef in New York at the Stryker Center. And I'm doing really fun events with different chef friends and restaurateurs and people from the internet that you might know all over the country. I'm really excited about it.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, being the face of Israeli cuisine at a time when it's not easy to be publicly Israeli around the world. And it's not a new phenomenon because Israeli food products have suffered, Israeli restaurants, the whole Israeli food brand, which you kind of, were a witness and a participant for it growing around the world. Yeah, and you still are.
I still am.
But it's gotten a lot harder and more challenging. We're talking protests, we're talking boycotts, we're talking a lot of issues. As you travel, you've probably been to every major Israeli restaurant, food destination, community around the world. Can you tell me a little bit what it's like and how things have changed?
I would say that the main change is the willingness of mainstream media to talk about my books, potentially. Sababa was a really different landscape in the way that people talked about and interfaced with Israel and Israeli food. Even though my personality online, my books are not political, a lot of people just, the fact that I live in Israel and I'm an Israeli citizen renders my work political. I would say that I've gone more DTC, direct to consumer. I'm really focused on my community of people that subscribe to my Substack newsletter and who follow me online and who read my books. And I also go around the country speaking. I'm not looking to justify my existence and I'm not looking to defend my existence. I just want to exist. And so, whoever wants to come along for the ride are welcome, and those who don't need to, and that's okay. I'm okay with where I am and where I stand, and fortunately for me, it's been okay. And in a way, my community has grown quite a bit in the last few years. I think because I'm not trying to hide where I live or who I am. And I'm neither trying to defend nor indict the political situation for which I personally have no control.
Do you find that the Israeli branded restaurants abroad or branded food products abroad are not doing that? That some of them are trying to downplay or hide where they're from? Because they're worried about security and their livelihoods.
Them,
yeah.
But I mean, my opinion about living here, at least, if someone wants to find you and find out who you are, they're going to find you. There's no sense in trying to hide. And abroad, I can't speak for chef friends, but like, for instance, my friend Mike Solomonoff, I mean, his restaurants are Israeli influenced and Philadelphia and New York and Miami now. And, he hasn't rebranded as a Mediterranean chef. And some have, and I take no fault with what anyone is doing to keep their business going and to survive and to thrive. And it's not my place to judge how anybody conducts their business right now. I support anyone who is trying to make a living making this food or writing books about this place. And I have been supported and embraced by this community, and I try to project that back out into the world.
I'm thinking about Passover, and I'm thinking about the Ashkenazi Sephardi divide of having kitniot, to having legumes, and your favorite Israeli ingredient, tahini, is in that category of some use it and some don't. Do you?
Yes, I do. For sure. Yeah. I actually grew up Orthodox Ashkenazi, as we call it, Ashkenormative cuisine. And, I would say that my food now is really much more a blend. And I'm no longer ritually observant, but many even people who live in Israel who are more observant, adopt what's called minhag hamakom, or like the traditions of the place that they live. So for instance, in the United States, it can be really complicated. All the oils that are used in salatim and salads and dips are all seed oils and things that are considered legumes, and here as well still. So, but a lot of people, just eat those now and also are adapting other things into their cuisine.
I call it converting to Sephardi.
I'm on board 100%. Would we eat rice on Passover? Absolutely. That's my tradition. That's what I do, but everyone has to do what works for them. And I could be fine doing a pure Ashkenazi, no kitniot, no legume Passover. I love the challenge of Passover cooking. I love matzah. Actually, I love crispy, crunchy food. I love crackers. I found a lot of interesting things to do with matzah beyond matzah toffee. Like, you can make a really great breakfast sandwich with it where you soak the matzah a bit and then you cook eggs and adhere the matzah to the egg, then flip it, add cheese, avocado, and crisp the outside. I have so many ideas, and they're fun. And, I think I view it as a culinary challenge as well as keeping our traditions alive. And, I think that's what's really beautiful about the evolution of any cuisine.
Adeena, it's Been really amazing talking to you. And I was thinking about an interesting last question to you. We're in a war with Iran. What's your favorite Iranian dish?
Ooh, I have so many. Okay, so I love gondi, which is a chicken and chickpea meatball. And my friend Rotem Liebergen, who's a well-known Persian-Israeli chef, Iranian-Israeli chef here in Israel, has a version that has a medjool date in the center. And I have that recipe in my Sababa cookbook. I love tahdig, of course. It's the inverted, crispy, bottomed rice. So you flip it and it has this golden crust on the top that everyone's fighting over. Fessenjun is a beautiful stew that has pomegranate, like a pomegranate flavor to it. Ashreshte, pomegranate meatballs. Kuku sabzi, which is a wonderful dish for Passover, which is like an herb omelet. That you put tons, there are almost more herbs than eggs in it, and you create this beautiful, very green, springy, very Passover appropriate kind of it can be eaten hot, it can be eaten in a sandwich, it can be eaten on its own. So those are a few of my favorites.
So I guess to end on an upbeat note, we can fantasize about maybe someday eating Iranian food in Iran.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely my dream. I have a future project that I'm working on about diasporic Jewish food traditions, and like with all the changes in the world, like to me, all the uncertainty and might be worthwhile if I could maybe someday go to Syria or Lebanon or Iran and connect with the origins of Jewish cuisine in those countries. That would be an absolute dream come true.
So let's close on that, on peace in our time, on all of our borders and beyond. Amen. Amen. In the meantime, Adeena, thank you so much for braving the missiles to come into the studio and join me in person. Just full disclosure, we had about 3 missile alerts in the hour or two leading up to this interview, but we made it happen.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be here, and I just want to wish everyone, whatever holiday they're celebrating at this time of year, joyful and peaceful times with your family and your friends, and delicious food for everybody, and that we should all be able to eat a huge meal together sometime soon.
Thank you, Adeena. Stay safe.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of the Haaretz Podcast. Thanks to my guest, Adeena Sussman, producer Mor Opfer, and editor Adi Shacham. If you'd like to keep listening to the podcast, make sure you never miss an episode. Please subscribe to us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a comment and a 5-star rating, and that way more people can find us. And to keep up with all the latest news on Israel, the Middle East, and the Jewish world, including the latest updates on the Iran war, don't forget to subscribe to and follow Haaretz.com. I'm Alison Kaplan-Summer, and until next time, shalom from Tel Aviv.